The decline of the honeybee population has major consequences for us as consumers and the global community. To talk more about all of this is Jay Evans. He's the lead scientist for a bee research laboratory in the Washington area. The facility is part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Jay, thanks so much for joining us. Why should we as consumers be concerned about this honeybee decline?
Well, if you look at U.S. agriculture, as you'd mentioned prior, the impacts of bees are really on the pollination of a third or so of our food crops, and they're really the more interesting foods, we think. We love almonds, we love berries, apples, many of the vegetables and fruits, and that diversity of our diets would not happen without insect pollination. And honeybees play perhaps the lion's share of that because they are portable. They can be moved to different parts of the country as needed for crops. So without honeybees, we'd see a pretty drastic reduction in the diversity of our foods. And of course, they provide food sources themselves. They provide honey and pollen that are used by consumers. So there's a direct impact of the bees on our diet, as well as this indirect impact through how they affect the plants in our agricultural systems.
And in Hendrick's story, it kind of, as you saw, there really isn't a consensus out there on what's causing all of this. Some say pesticides, others say parasites. What do you believe is the major contributing factor?
Well, I'll tell you, and I'm colored. I study parasites of bees, and I've seen their impacts on colonies and on beekeepers, their populations. And there are, the scientific community is working on three angles, and even the interactions between those, ranging from chemical impacts to nutrition, the availability of forage for bees, and the parasites and pathogens that they face. On the parasite side, we have some visible and known culprits. There's a parasitic mite that's notoriously bad for bee health, and we're trying to control that mite. We're also trying to breed bees that are themselves resistant to the mite. Viruses are resurgent and are at high levels in beehives. So there's this multiple source of threats. They can all be addressed, I think, by research and trying to mitigate or regulate those threats. So those of us in the research world are kind of carving away at our topics, at our expertise on different threats, and we stay up late at night wondering which of those factors is really the cause of these declines, because we are worried for the bees and for our beekeepers.
Well, Jay, why don't we talk about your carving, because you're looking at the immune systems of bees to these threats. What are you discovering? What are you finding?
Well, we're working with bees and their history of these parasites to try to bring the best back out of them. So we do look at the genetics of immunity, how bees are like us. They've faced viruses for many, many years, and pathogens such as bacteria and fungi and gut parasites. And we're working with them, in a sense, to strengthen those defenses, to help them help identify bees with stronger genetic defenses, but also to manage them, maybe with better nutrition or reducing other stresses. And we've seen that by doing that, by giving the bees a little bit better chance, we actually do reduce the losses, or at least reduce the impacts of the more severe challenges that they're facing.
Jay Evans joining us from Baltimore, Maryland. Thanks.